right away in a second to a second presentation, just for really to have a focus on each one and have the time a bit of interactiveness. I'd like to collect 2, maximum 3 questions. Please leave your comments to the end. We're going to have more time at the end of the presentations. But 2 or 3 short questions on the presentation.
I would like to ask you, what is your form of organization? How do you come together and how do you negotiate your strategies and your goals?
It's been very difficult to organize women because we are also living in such a patriarchal society in South Africa. But in the area called Somkele and Efulweni is the area in KZN where women is helping the communities to mobilize and organize themselves there. And there were no formal structures for women. But we started going to the points where women are collecting water and starting to talk, organize from there. And we also started to go the days where women are going to get grants, for their children, and there are lots of women there. And then we started organizing and talking to the women. But the most important work that we have done also in that area was also to use a community participatory action research, where we had a group of 10 women who were going into the communities in the villages and sharing the stories, the women documenting their stories and sitting together. And so I think in November we'll be launching those stories of the women, but that were collected by women, because the action participatory research, it helps women to gain more knowledge about what is happening in their areas, but also to engage with other women. The women tried to go to the tribal authorities, but they were denied. So they were not allowed to go into the tribal authorities. There's also a new movement of Women United. I think it's Women Affected by Mining United in Action. So these are all the women from mining communities in South Africa who are also came together to find a common strategy, but also a solidarity, and to also discuss the actions that they can also take as women to fight the mining companies. And with the energy and climate change campaign, like I said, that it's led by grassroots women. So we are also trying to form a movement around energy and climate change, but with the grassroots women leading it, not the big NGOs, but the women who affected themselves taking a leadership and coming with solutions and how they want to be organized in their own communities. So these are the only few things that I can mention now, but there are lots of initiatives that have been taken by other organizations. Yeah.
So I'm just going to take one more, and then we're going to come back to the questions at the end.
Is there also a legal side to the struggle? Because you told us the story of your daughter, it's going to have legal implications on the...
The problem is when I go to a doctor and complain about the headache, they only treat the symptoms. They don't go to the root of the problems. But also, the companies are asking you what type of food are you eating. Are you burning coal in your house? Is there anyone smoking in your house? And if you have yes to all those questions and you are sick because the coal that you are burning in your house is the one that makes you sick. So communities are often being asked to produce evidence. And we always say, for communities to know that you are affected, that the water that you are drinking is dirty, you don't need to be a scientist or a doctor. But the women in the communities, they were telling us about life before mining. And they were able to say we didn't have all these kind of sicknesses. Section 8, we actually wanted to test our equality court. We collected the stories of women and we went to equality court and said, look, I'm living in this area and I don't have water. But the person who's living on that other side, who's more richer, they have water. That means this is inequality. And they were saying, no, this case, it doesn't belong here. It's a civil case. And when you take a civil case, it might take you years and not resolving the situation. The communities continue to suffer even more. So a legal route is okay, but we need more than that to hold the companies accountable. There are laws. We have a very progressive constitution. Section 24 of our constitution says everyone has a right to live in a clean environment that is healthy and not harmful, especially for future children. But we don't get a protection of that right. We have National Management Environmental Act. Somebody mentioned the MPRDA, the Mineral Resource and Petroleum Development Act, which now it's back to Parliament because the communities were fighting, because government removed the clause where it says communities has to be consulted. And it's not fair because mining companies they just can come into your area without consulting you. So we have the most important one is called trust pay principle. And those laws are not being implemented. Communities are the ones who are paying with their health and losing their land, but government is not doing anything to using this strong laws that we have in South Africa to hold companies accountable.
Thank you. Just to come back on the general view, is we're talking about a lot of human rights violations. In a country, and this is also very important, in a country like South Africa where the legal framework is there, so it's more about implementation. And the basic question is, taking your question again into consideration, is how do you empower communities to claim those rights, and how do you put enough pressure to deliver those rights, to protect those rights. So this is basically this. I'm very happy to introduce Doro Winkler from Ntaopane in Lucerne here in Switzerland. Doro Winkler is the officer, the desk officer for human rights and extractives. I think if I understood correctly, it's changing at the moment, your position, but it's around the same issues. Sorry, I'm just going to start. Has worked on several case studies in Burkina Faso and Brazil, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and has a background in social anthropology, and as far as I understood, has long worked in the field of human rights violations, specifically towards women.